Moving on to item 4, statewide policy standards procedures quarterly review, technical PSPs, information and discussion.
Thank you, co-chairs and committee members. I've been asked today to speak to you regarding our policies, standards, and procedures. A little bit of background here. The PSPs office established a framework for interoperable communications, and it's in accordance with our SIEC Initiative 4. We currently have 9 PSPs across 3 categories, which are governance, training, and technical. We have established a template and style guide, and that is mainly what we're here today to show you. There are a few changes that we do have, but we want to be consistent across all of our policy standards and procedures, which I'll call PSPs now, so that it's easy to find the different sections that you're looking for. It's easy to go through. We also have established versioning and approval procedures, and these are all posted on the Library Standards PSPs website. The existing PSPs, as I've stated, are in governments where the PSPs has several operating documents, and the SIEC also has operating documents. Training as well as another area in which we have our communications unit training, and then technical, which we'll be discussing here today. We have 4 documents that we need to go through out of those 9 today. The approval process is an initiation via the PSPs or the SIEC request. It could be a change in federal state requirements or a stakeholder concern. Once that happens, we have an internal PSPs office drafting of the document, where we draft the document and then next send it out to subject matter experts or to a work group. We have a public comment period where the document's placed out there for review from the public and their opinions on it. And then a draft review, which we're doing here today in a public meeting. Finally, we have a final approval and also in a public meeting. As the PSPs have stabilized, we've established a standard annual review cycle in which we take the documents in different areas and review them on an annual basis. Each quarter, the PSPs will be presented for internal review and then work group review and then public comments. The results of this are that once reviewed by the PSPs or the SIEC, if no revisions are taken, then that becomes the last review date and we go with that document. If we do take revisions, then we go back through the drafts, through the review procedure, and then back to you as a committee for approval. Each document will be reviewed, of course the contents of it, that it makes sure that it follows the SIEC initiatives, other PSPs, and obviously the National Emergency Communications Plan, as well as NIMS ICS principles. Also, we want to make sure that we get the guidance from the different organizations throughout the state and throughout the federal government. We look for technical corrections, broken links, formats, etc. And so here is our review cycle. In January to April, we have strategic plans and governments. April to June, we have training. July to September are technical documents, which we'll be reviewing here, 4 of them. And October to December, we need to leave enough time for our office to give reports to the governor, the legislature, and federal agencies. And any new PSP, hopefully, will be developed through that time. Our review cycle started August 7th, where we mailed out to stakeholders requesting feedback on our annual technical PSPs. August 21st, we Had no comments received at that particular time. And August 21st, we did an internal review of the PSPs and had no change in the core content, although we did want to do some changes to the different formats that require additional content, such as the 8 listed there, background, purpose, scope, etc., and breaking the documents out. Today we're here presenting to you and request feedback from the SIEC. And September 19th we'll present to the PSPs. In early September we'll have all the draft revisions sent to the interested parties and posted on the website. And by mid-September we'll have review of the PSP by work groups. Early October we approve the document, or would like to approve the document and the revised PSPs that have been released. And then by October 15th we'd like to present again to the SIEC for possible approval of your documents, and then on the 19th present to the PSPs for their approval of the land mobile radio equipment standards and the interoperable channels plan. So really this is the...
Is there any questions so far?
This is really, from my Idaho background, the meat and potatoes of what we're looking at here. We're going to start with the land mobile minimum equipment standards. That document is in your packet. At this point, I'm going to slow down and actually go through each of the documents so that we can review them and have some discussion about it. The land mobile radio minimum equipment standard was established to implement certain radio frequencies that are nationally recognized to promote and maintain higher level of interoperable communications among the different public jurisdictions and principals. It's recommended that all mobile and portable radio equipment purchased for the purposes of public safety and emergency response meet these standards. It is a small document, and it is the one that is labeled Land Mobile Radio Minimum Standards. We as a group have found that we have a missing definitions and reference section on there and would like to add that. Otherwise, there are no other changes that we as the PSPs office present to you for changes. So I'll give you a moment to look through that. It's a short document with just what we would suggest that they have inside of that.
I should note that as over the last couple of years, as we've been developing policies and standards, we have created a formal structure for all of our PSPs. And because that structure evolved somewhat, particularly over the last year, even though this document was just updated a year ago, there are some new sections that have been added to the general template. So in this case, it's simply a definition section and reference section. And that's why even though on all 4 of these PSPs, we are not recommending any core changes at this time unless any issues are raised here. But we will have to go through and have new versions approved because we're going to need to create the new definitions and references content. Is there anything, and there's some vendors here and stuff, anything on this that's changed in the last year since technology changes so much? Any other requirements that should be on here as a minimum standard that maybe I'm not aware of? It looks pretty straightforward.
It is pretty straightforward. I think in the future, and by future I mean 1 to 2, maybe even 3 years, we're going to start having to look at data standards as the National Public Safety Broadband Network rolls out. But at this point, that's, I believe, is probably too premature to start including in this document.
I had a question about the channel display. 7 character. I was reading the other interoperable channels plan. It's based on an 8 character. And I'm just wondering out loud if we want to try to align those two, where we recommend the minimum is 8 character versus the 7 character. Really very minor concept, and I don't imagine there's any equipment out there. Actually, I'm unfamiliar if there's any equipment out there that comes with less than capability of 8 characters.
Is there
less than 8? Being a lot of no's, that would make sense.
Okay, we will look into that. Any other comments, gentlemen?
Anything from the audience? Again, we'd like to be inclusive here, so.
Okay, hearing none, co-chairs and committee members, thank you. We'll move on to the next one, which is the Arizona Interoperable Channels Plan. You move that for me, huh?
I'll do this part since we've got to switch back and forth.
All right, I'll put this down if that be the case, since I need to take notes. This is a plan that establishes requirements and recommendations for programming statewide interoperable channels in subscriber units. The plan is to standardize and increase the communications through the state for VHF, UHF 700 and 800 megahertz. It's suggested that each agency incorporate these into their channel plan and train to that. One of the things that we want to do in here, and the reason that there are 2 links there, is we'd like to fold into the Arizona Interoperable Channels Plan, the Priority Programming Guide, as an appendix to the Interoperable Channels Plan, and instead of having 2 documents, have one as an appendix to the other. It makes sense that they go to this document, pull the appendix for what they need. It allows us not to have to worry about any discrepancies between the 2 and having them in 2 different locations. Other than that, we have definitions and references as subheadings that are missing in there, and that is the suggestion that we make to this committee.
Actually thought we pulled those together a while back. I guess it was the policy and channel.
Exactly. The Interoperable Channels Plan contains both the policy as well as all the different specific frequencies. The Priority Programming Guide is simply a set of tables so that instead of somebody having to, carry around a 15-page thing, they have a quick, easy reference kind of tear-off in the 3 bands. I would note on this that the 800 megahertz interoperable channels in here are actually managed by the Regional Planning Committee. 800 megahertz RPC, those are not our frequencies, but with their concurrence, we are including their recommendations as part of the Interop Channels Plan.
Question, I don't know if I ever got it ironed out. Back during the Ronald fire, there was also a fire in Cochise County at the same time. I don't remember the name of it, but there were some issues with the 2 fires walking over each other on airs. I don't know if it's a programming issue of those using the radios locally, or if it was on the sites, or if it was something to do with this channel plan. I don't know if it ever got fixed or worked out.
It did. My recollection of that is a little bit faulty, but I believe the way that was resolved was by disbanding air safety. What the issue at that point was both fires were trying to use air safety, and even though they were in different parts of the state, there was
Also, it was resolved.
As you can see, this one very much in the old format, although again the vast majority of the content was already there. It's just those missing headings, definitions, references.
I don't have any comments, anything else? Okay. Maybe it's a technical question. On the 800s, you have 8 AZ TAC 5 and 8 AZ TAC 5 Delta.
That's why we would like to take that out of there and have it in its own separate one. And the other documents are correct. This one just happens to have that one in there. I'm going to go ahead and take that out of there, and it will be AZ. I don't have it written down here, but the two that are the AZ in the beginning of the correct names.
Right. Now, are these
the agency using this, or
These multiple, mutual aid channels that are available. There's some restriction about where you can use it.
All of these are available for use. The NIFOG channels are available for all Part 90 licensees. The state channels are available for anyone who has signed an AIRS MOU. And of course, the standard caveat of in instances of life safety, they can be used in order to prevent life-threatening problems.
Multi-agency use, not for data channel added to a
Correct.
jurisdiction.
Correct.
Well, I'm glad I've got my office here because I didn't understand and jumped in too quick.
Anything from the audience?
I have a question. You're not recommending to change this nomenclature again, are you? No.
No.
Around 1,800 radio.
Yeah, we're not.
No, that was kind of a sigh of relief up here too, as we weren't.
I got a little scared thinking, oh my God. No, not at all.
Thanks for clarifying that, because
I'm glad you did.
There's more things.
I didn't walk away from here with that idea.
I say we go to. Okay, if nothing else on that one.
We'll move on then to the next one. The next one is the Arizona Interagency Radio System, the state plan. Defines how to use the statewide interoperable system known as the Arizona Interagency Radio System, AIRS. These procedures are intended to inform monitoring, dispatch, and user actions regarding the system. This document is the one that's going to have the most changes to it. First of all, we have missing definitions, but we also have tables that are now included in the interoperable channel that we'd like to take out. That's the one that I was speaking to in my last comment. We'd like to take those tables out. There's no changes to the names, etc. We just like to have them in the right spot. And we'd like to have you look at this document. Justin, if you go to that, there are two things that we really need from you as a committee. We have the monitoring tables in there and maps, and these have not been updated, and we are sure as a group that these are out of date, probably new updates to them, and so that's correct where we needed to be. So each of these has a monitoring communications center on it. We still have the words pending. We believe that it's no longer pending. And would like you to take a moment, if you would, and look through that and let us know, if not today, soon after the meeting, what we can do to make changes to this.
On the tables, one thing, are we going to remove them from here? Will we at least reference where we move them to as appendix to the channel plan?
Yeah, we can do that, certainly. The issue that Mark's referring to is that initially, before we had the interoperable channels plan, we had included a core list of NIFOG-related channels in the AIRS SOP so that we kind of had interop channels all together. Now that we have the interop channels plan, it doesn't really make sense to have frequencies listed in multiple places, and that this AIRS SOP really should just be about the AIRS system. We can certainly create draft language in the SOP to also reference the interoperable channels plan and the frequencies that are there.
And just so it's not any more difficult than it has to be.
You may recall about a year and a half ago we had an issue where one document had one specific frequency and another document had it reversed, and so we had to do some of those cleanups, and by ensuring that it's only in one place for each thing, then we can kind of avoid those problems.
We'd like to take the NIFOG information out and make it solely straight AIRS SOP information. We'd like to update the maps, and we'd like to update these monitoring assignments.
Again, there would not be any really core technical changes. It's simply a matter of updating to reflect how the current operations are.
County Sheriff is monitoring air supply. Years 5, I think it's now this week. Thank you, Brian.
And if we do have folks take advantage of putting up their own suites, we would just notice it as appendix or something until the next update of the plan.
Correct. There are a couple of jurisdictions right now looking at procuring air suite equipment and expanding out the system. None of those jurisdictions are currently ready to bring that material before the SIEC. As part of the next document we'll go over, the Air Improvement Sustainability Plan, all of those changes have to be approved by this body, and so if those changes are approved, at the same time we can have an approval to update the appendixes with those new locations.
And then I thought at the beginning we said this one needed definitions, but the last page is glossary, which isn't that definition.
We'll move that to the front and clean that up, just so that you can find them in the document at the same location.
Any other comments for you guys?
Did you mention tables would be removed? Is that
Updated. Oh, I'm sorry.
the tables with the frequencies, so the NIFOG tables?
The NIFOG frequencies that don't pertain directly to air. Correct.
Thank you.
Anything from the audience? All right.
Okay, the next one that we have on our list here is the Arizona Air's Improvement and Sustainability Plan. This is a method by which local jurisdictions can procure air site infrastructure or can get onto the infrastructure that's there to improve their coverage in Arizona. The procedure provides guidance for initial requests for new air sites, approvals, how they go through that. In this particular document, it was last approved late last year, and so not much has been changed on that. We have the definitions moved from the appendix to a new template that we suggest, and we updated the DPS contact information as the retirement of our last chair here. And so that's been updated to Jeremy Knowles' information, and so that's what we propose to do to this document. Very minor changes.
Trying to see where
The last page.
would that better put as a general contact instead of a person?
Yeah.
You know, that it could be the telecommunications manager at DPS or something. We've done that in a lot of other state documents.
I think that's appropriate.
Names, positions do change.
Certainly, we can get the general or the phone numbers here and remove the names while leaving technical information. Although the one advantage, a portion of this procedure involves a lot of discussion and consultation between the technical staff at DPS and the local jurisdiction to look for interference issues, to find optimal site placement, things like that. And so initially we had put in particularly Scott's information because of that type of work that had to be done. That way they could just go straight to the person. From an issue of document maintenance, it would certainly be a lot easier to have just generic contact information.
I would think there probably isn't a high volume of calls to the numbers, so their main office number could call it out and give the direct number. once the person has the direct number of the right person, just for the document.
Yes, I agree. It's not an urgent communication, so they'll route it to the correct person.
Certainly.
And we'll make that change. That concludes our review of documents.
Anything from the audience on that last one?
I have one small question. Did you say you were going to update these to make them all look and act alike so that when you read through them, you're not trying to figure out how
How it's formatted?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The glossaries in different places and format, all four of them in different formats.
Correct. And so we're going to put them into one format.
Thank you.
They'll all end up looking kind of like this one with either SIEC or PSPC at the top, depending on who the final approval authority is, whether it's an SOP or policy here, the name of it, the date, and have consistent sections formatting throughout.
All right.
Okay, so for the next steps, please send any feedback as soon as possible to this email address. September 9th, we will present to the PSPC, and early September draft revisions of all the technical PSPs will be sent to the interested parties email list. In September, work group reviews will be done, and early October approval draft will be of these revised PSPs will be released for your approval in the next SIEC meeting. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time. If there's any other comments or questions, I'll take those.
Is there anybody on the phone that had something to say? Sorry, I've ignored the phone.
I'll give you that reference.
Okay, for anybody on the phone, if you could put your phone on mute, not hold, but on mute, that would help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clay.